stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. Mr. Barton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Moving forward, we are going into item 2, public comments. We have some folks who have signed up. General rule is if you're an individual, you get 3 minutes. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, some of you have identified in here, you get 5 minutes. We will have a timer. I will be keeping time. Do you want to add? Okay, we'll do quick housekeeping. We need to add something to the agenda.
Close the meeting to the end of our noon or 2 o'clock session.
Okay, after other business.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to make sure we add a closed session on the back end. Sorry, we have a second from Mr. Parr. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Spivey.
Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Mr. Parr.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Butcher.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on track. I move forward the consent agenda. The chair recommendation that we accept the consent. Oh, sorry. All right, let's go ahead and begin. Like I said, 3 minutes for an individual, 5 minutes for a group. I'll try to give you a 30-second heads up. We have some folks who signed up here. There will be an opportunity for those of you who haven't added your name to this list that you'll be able to speak as well. So when you do approach the podium, if you could state your name and address for the record. Mr. William Mays with Nelson County Farm Bureau. You'll be given 5 minutes.
William Mays, 1322 Emmys Gap Road, Roseland, Virginia, President, Nelson County Farm Bureau. On behalf of the board and all, we thank you for the opportunity to come today and express our concerns, and we appreciate it very much. I have a little drafted statement. Nelson County Farm Bureau Board of Directors strongly urge the Board of Supervisors to resume the feasibility study on land situated in Nelson County for the purpose of determining its suitability for a proposed agricultural complex. While we as a board commend your efforts in undertaking this feasibility study, we are concerned by recent events resulting in the studies temporarily being stopped. Our concerns are centered and focused on a timely completion of the contractor study. This critical step needs to move forward to determine the most important aspects of the property's suitability for an agricultural complex. They would be water, sewer, etc. The Nelson County Farm Bureau Board of Directors and the agricultural community in both counties strongly urge your continued commitment to the completion of the feasibility study. It is our goal and mission to advocate for the enhancement of agricultural opportunities for our county. To this end, we are committed to the support of this project and very positive benefits it will bring to our communities and citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Mays. Okay. Mr. Bryant.
I'm Chris Bryant, resident of Nelson County, also represent the Ag Committee for Amherst County. Live in 934 Wheels Lane, Lovestown, Virginia. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to have the opportunity to work together on the project involved in both counties. We're excited to be able to work together on this project. I would like to clarify some of the information that has been misunderstood and address concerns around the potential cost of the project. First and most importantly, the intent of the complex is to provide a facility where youth and adults of both communities can be trained to acquire skilled trades. Once established, this can serve as a pipeline to provide skilled workers for area business and contribute to a healthier business growth of both communities. Their support for the project on both Amherst and Nelson CTE centers for programs as well as Central Virginia and Piedmont community colleges, but both in support of seeing something like this take place. Second is to provide a location to hold special events like Joint County fairs, trade shows, and other events that may benefit both counties. The Amherst Nelson Ag Work Group recommended that both counties move forward with the purchase of the real estate once a study demonstrated that there would be sufficient water to support the infrastructure. The counties agreed to move forward with a full feasibility study. However, there's been some misunderstanding about what the county would be asked to be responsible for. The intention of the work groups for the counties was to provide the seed money to purchase the real estate, assuming the study was sufficient. There was no expectation for the counties to cover the cost of the infrastructure. The work group assumed the responsibility of soliciting the funding through grants and private businesses to develop to cover the infrastructure cost. The possibility of securing significant grant funding will be more likely if we demonstrate that multiple counties are involved in working together towards a common goal. Moving forward, the work group would welcome better communication between both the board of supervisors as well as those working in the work group. In summary, the project is a great opportunity for each county to provide a facility with the potential to benefit both its citizens and its business by working together.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Mr. McCann.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward William McCann. I reside at 94 Farsight Road in the capital city of Masseyville, Virginia. I appreciate what you all have done as a board for the over 40 years that I've been a citizen of this county and employed by this county for 38 years to teach career skills to agricultural students. This board, several members of this board, have been very cooperative. You have a history of supporting education. It was a history of supporting career and education, particularly supporting agricultural education. I've had the pleasure of working and teaching, of having one of you as a former student. And this complex is something that we had proposed to the school system back in the late 70s to consider. We actually drew up plans to have the high school, and it got shelved. And the whole reason was we didn't have enough space. To hear this come true, that this was something the board was supporting, and the Nelson County Times putting forth a wonderful article about the idea of an agricultural complex and an opportunity for both youth and adults of all ages to receive additional career training skills for two counties crossing two planning districts. I've talked to several legislators around the state that represent us both at the state level and at the national level. And they said having this together could really bring in some grant money. I'm concerned that there has been no information out to the public regarding what caused this to pause and who paused it. I've been trying to get a hold of the RFP that was developed and given to architectural partners. I can't seem for some reason to get my hands on that. I keep hearing rumors of houses being planned in this, when all simply was asked was to see if there was a feasibility of having water available before looking into committee to buy this property, much less all the infrastructure had to do. I'm really not sure who had all these extra things to do RFP. I'm not sure I can get a hold of an RFP, but I think this is a diamond in the rough. This board has historically supported education, career and technical education opportunities for agriculture. And I simply implore you to consider this opportunity that's there. And I thank you for allowing us to speak today. You work tirelessly for the citizens of this county, and I appreciate that. I hope that you'll give some strong consideration to presuming the study, to conduct a water survey, and to let those results be known. You guys should be commended for what you're doing, and I do that. And I hope you'll reconsider the pause and get that back going again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. Okay. We have Eric Bowen.
Eric Bowen, 283 Timber Creek Drive, Farmville, Virginia. I am the Virginia Cooperative Extension Animal Science Extension Agent for Amherst County and also serve as the Unit Coordinator for the Nelson County Office. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Harvey. First off, I want to say thank you all for your all's faith and trust and support of the Nelson County Office. The Nelson County Office has been in several vacant positions for almost 2 years at this point. I am happy to stand before you all to share some good news. First off, with me today, and the chance to present in just a moment, is Grace Monger, the new A&R Horticulture Extension Agent that will be housed in the Nelson County office. And I can also share that on February 10th, we have a 4-H agent that will be starting. She had been the program associate with the office, so she has a history with Extension. Erin Harris. As soon as we get her in place, we will bring her back up. But I'll allow Grace to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Grace Munger. I'm at 1095 Tide River Road in Arlington. I recently graduated from Virginia Tech with a horticulture degree, a viticulture minor, and a plant health sciences minor. I was very involved in research that had extension funding while I was at Tech. I'm very excited to be in Nelson County to serve the producers and the homeowners here. I also was raised on a beef cattle farm in Rockingham County, so not too far away and not too different from Nelson County. I'm happy to say that I'm looking for somewhere to live in Nelson and I want to stay here.
Thank you so much. We look forward to great success with our extension office here in the county. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else at this time who wishes to speak that did not get their name on this list? Okay. Not seeing or hearing anybody. We close the public comments. Moving into the consent agenda, is the chair's recommendation that we approve the consent agenda as presented? We can get a motion. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do we have support?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barton. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Spivey, can you do the roll call vote?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Excellent. Thank you all so much for that. One thing I wanted to make a quick adjustment since we do have some folks here, and this will be a topic about the ag facility. On item number V, moving item C of V in front of item A. So if we could just at that time, maybe bring up the ag facility we talked over at and go through it at that time. Is that okay with staff? Does the board have any issues with that? Okay, we will make that adjustment. All right, moving forward to presentations. We have the audit report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Matt McLaren. I'm with Robinson Farmer Associates. I am here to present the fiscal year 21 audit. I am not the normal face you see each year. Mr. David Foley is unable to be here this afternoon, so I will be presenting in his absence. There are two main reasons for a presentation between an auditor and government body. The first is to convey these required communications on professional standards from an auditor to the government body. And secondly, to present the audit results for the fiscal year 21 audit. My remarks will be brief, but please interrupt me at any point in time if there's any questions, anything I can expand upon for my remarks. As I mentioned, there are a few required communications between an auditor and a government body. I'm going to briefly review those required communications. They are outlined in a 2 to 3 page letter that is available for distribution as necessary. The first of those items required to be communicated is responsibilities under the audit. Certainly the auditor has a responsibility under the audit to test documents, test internal controls, and test compliance. We're also required to file the financial statements at the conclusion of our audit. However, management and the finance and treasurer and the other components of the audit also have a responsibility. The audit team is required to maintain a system of internal controls throughout the year. The audit is also required to present documents to be tested. Please report that both parties fulfill responsibilities under the audit. The next item described in this letter is implementations of new accounting standards. It seems like every year there's a new accounting standard to be implemented. This one was accounting standard number 84. It impacted what we call fiduciary funds. The actual impact to the county's financial statements was minimal, but it was implemented correctly and timely in accordance with professional standards. The next item communicated is accounting estimates. Most financial statements include estimates in the development of those statements. Estimates include the estimate for depreciable life of fixed asset. I really don't know that. It's an estimate. It's based on industry standards. It's also based on historical experience. The county also has significant estimates related to pension and other post-employment liabilities. These estimates are developed by an actuary professional that deals with these types of liabilities, and this information has been included in the financial statements for the county. The next item described in this letter is difficulties in county reform the audit, requiring professional standards to disclose to the governing body any difficulty we had in doing the audit. The difficulty, an example would be inability to access records we would need to find financial statements, or incomplete records, whether it was intentional or unintentional. And please report the difficulties encountered from the audit. The next item is corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Those audits include proposed audit adjustments. Audit adjustments that are included in the audited financial statements are considered corrected misstatements. Uncorrected misstatements are those that have been proposed by the audit team to the management or finance staff of the county and were not included. Required in professional standards to disclose those uncorrected misstatements. Please report there are no uncorrected misstatements. And lastly, this letter discloses our knowledge of management's consultation with other auditors. It's also called opinion shopping. Please report we have no knowledge of management's opinion of another GP. That concludes the first part of my remarks, and that's conveying the required communications on professional standards to a governing body. The second is to talk a little bit about the actual audit results for fiscal year 21 audit. Our audit process can be broken down into basically three components. That's first the audit of the financial statements, where we test documents to confirm the balances that are listed in the actual financial statements. The second is the testing of the county internal controls. As I mentioned, each entity is required to have a system of control in place to ensure the accuracy of the reporting of the financial statements. And we're required to test those controls to make sure that they're in compliance throughout the entire fiscal year. And lastly, the third part of the audit process is compliance testing. The state and federal governments both hand out compliance requirements, and these compliance requirements are necessary to test very specific components of the audit, whether that's over grant or state compliance. We're required to remit that result to the state, the Auditor of Public Accounts, and also to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse as it relates to any federal grants. In the balance comprehensive financial report, we issue three reports that relate to those three components. First being the audit of the actual financial statements. The independent auditor's report covers that part of the audit. And we've issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements for the year ending June 30, 2021. The second of the three reports that is listed in the annual comprehensive financial report that you'll find on the CPA firm's letterhead is the report on internal controls. And this is the report where an auditor would describe any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses noted during the audit process over the internal controls. And please report there are no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the county's internal control reporting structure. And lastly, the third report is a report of compliance over major programs. This is specific to federal funding. Any entity that receives greater than $750,000 in federal funding, that's counties, services, and school board combined, is required to have what's called a single audit or uniform guidance audit. We're required to express an opinion on that audit. We've issued an unmodified or clean opinion for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. So that concludes the actual audit results. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman, we have at this time.
Certainly. Thank you so much, sir. Are there any questions about the audit?
You seem to give us kind of clean bill of health. Is this what normally happens? Is it unusual that we're getting a clean bill of health, or is it typical?
It's typical. For organizations that's been reporting this many years, it should be typical. The reporting structure should be in place, should be sufficient, should be operating effectively. From time to time, there are non-compliance. We do report that out. That should be rare in a mature financial reporting environment.
Thank you. I will say, I think I've seen these reports every time in every government entity. And they usually keep a pretty good eye out throughout the year as well, in case there are any corrections that are needed. So thank you so much as always. There's no action for the audit report, correct? Okay, moving forward. VDOT report.
I don't have a lot to report on this month, just a few things are going on. The debris removal from the heavy snow and ice, we have a lot of trees that around on the secondary roads. We are in the process of picking those up. We started that Monday, which we talked today, last night, to work some ice, but we should have those up. We hope it'll take, we don't think it'll take more than a couple of weeks. We've got some gravel trucks coming in. Mr. Biden, your signs are completed on 655.
When did you do it? I just got it.
They were done the 12th. The 12th, it's a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit curve, one sign at that curve.
Really?
Yeah. It's supposed to-
I thought I'd been there. I said, okay,
Okay,
go by on the way home. I'll go by it on the way home.
okay, yeah. Hopefully that takes care of that. Mr. Carter and I have been communicating about the Poor Johns up at the wayside. We will assume that service here pretty quick. We're cutting POs and hopefully they'll be in place within a few weeks. So,
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome, thank you. Looking ahead as far as our construction program, this construction year, our surface, Wilson Road, Rainer County, Road, and 1 mile section of Norfolk Road. That's what we asked you to do this year. We will be looking at revising the 6-year plan here in another month or so. As you know, last year we prioritized some other roads, unpaved roads, on the priority list. That we have southern roads on there that you all prioritize, and we'll pull those off as they are prioritized to get them in the 6-year plan. Hopefully we can get the remainder of Jacks Hill, the remainder of City Creek, Ball Mountain, and maybe one more in the new plan. But that's about all I have today, gentlemen.
Okay. All right, Ms. Barker, you have any questions for South District?
Continuous following Gladstone, which they're talking about, the creek that comes in and it's blocked by debris. You probably will look at that. That's something that's ongoing. Goes right down to the town, right before you enter it, and there is, it's blocked with debris, but so it floods, comes out when there's heavy rain.
Is that the creek that goes under the corner of the building?
Okay, is that it? Mr. Harvey? Okay. Mr. Reed?
Mr. Brown, thank you for the traffic counts that you did on 151. I don't know if anybody else saw the data, but I was wondering if you had any inferences or conclusions based on that data or suggestions that the data may have.
No, I don't have any, I haven't really spent a whole lot of time looking at them, to be quite honest with you. We can review them and see what conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that. Okay, thank you. And maybe next month we can talk about if the increases are significant, to what extent, and what our options would be.
Any other? Mr. Barr? Mr. Barr? How long are they going to be putting these fiber lines on 29? It's almost as if they've gone back to the same place they were just at, especially here in the Livingston area.
I don't know, you know, they are, well, we're trying to monitor them a lot better than we did before. City's been out, and we just keep getting requests and we keep putting them in, and, you know, we apply our land use regulations, and we collect the fees, and as long as they find somewhere, they have a right to live on there. But I know it does increase the total fees portion. But we keep them down the road, so not all bad.
Other than that, I do not have any other further questions. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right. Moving forward, Mr. Carter, moving into item C, of new and unfinished business. And if we could, at the top end, just go into the agriculture facility discussion, if that's possible. Yeah.
At last week's board meeting, on the 31st, the board requested that staff follow up with consultants for the center project on conducting a hydrological study, hydrology study of the site to determine the sufficiency of water capacity for the ag center as conceived, which is reported for December 7th, the work session on capital improvements. So we consulted with architecture partners, who's the lead consultant for the project, and Hurton Project, who's their engineering subcontractor. We had a lengthy discussion this morning with both firms. The outcome of that is they're going to come back with a cost proposal to complete a water sewer assessment, sufficiency of the site, and sufficient water and sewer. Also geotechnical assessment, and then at least initial input to VDOT on permitting the site for road access. So we don't have that information yet, but it's been requested. In the discussion this morning, the Hurton Project and architectural staff said the preliminary architectural feasibility report today, based on the scope of the project, their analysis of the site needed about 24,400 gallons of water per day. So that is what we will be looking for once the proposal comes back and the board authorizes to proceed. That's what they say.
Gotcha. So this time, at a standstill, change the scope of work, essentially is what you're mentioning, to add in water and sewer.
The preliminary report is the work conducted today includes substantial cost estimate. It includes estimates for water, sewer, infrastructure, etc. But it's not a detailed level yet. So what this would do is be more specific with respect to not just the installation of infrastructure of water and sewer, but are the site support sufficient water for the project, and does it have capacity for wastewater treatment?
All right.
So we requested architectural partners and to provide that updated proposal as soon as possible.
At this time, I know there was a question of an RFP. I don't know if this board's...
We've never been requested to provide the RFP. That comment, as far as I know, we're not.
Sure.
Well, let me back up. The county's RFP that resulted in retaining architectural services that included conducting studies for the county that the board would approve. This agricultural center is an outcome of that general contract. It's not a specific RFP for the ag center.
All right, board, any questions for Mr. Carter in regards to the next?
Where we stand on moving forward with the study? I mean, we're gonna wait for an updated price with these other items, or are we gonna continue to move forward with what we voted on to do?
That's up to the board. On
Sure.
December 7th, I would just suggest to the board that the magnitude of the project, from our interpretation, the board said, you know, wait and decide next steps at a future meeting, which that meeting was conducted on the 31st of January, and the result was a direction, for last week, directed the staff to pursue these additional steps of work. Particularly to look at water capacity. But as I said, in talking to the engineers and the architect this morning, you know, over the course of the last couple of days, they've strongly recommended to look at not just water capacity, sewer, geotechnical, and, you know, road access.
Okay. All right. So the current action that's needed today is you need a consensus from the board to continue the study. Or adding in this next scope.
Contracted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and we can bring that back. I mean, it's going to be probably substantial to do this additional work.
So you said upwards of $25,000?
I would think so. Yeah, because it's becoming more into the realm of a preliminary engineering report. The first report, you know, where we are now, is a feasibility report, but not at the level of detail requested.
I think we could get access to the RFP as of what the basis was, and the items that were.
It would be the addendum to the RFP.
Sure.
That's been shared with the board.
Okay. We'll have to do
If the public wants it, then we just
Sure.
request.
Okay. All right, board. Moving forward, is there a potential, Mr. Carter, that we could move forward with the expectation of up to a dollar figure of 25 grand, if the scope comes in less than that?
Or you can authorize us to proceed. I mean, it could be 50,000. I mean, one of the challenges is they're going to have to contract with somebody like that and test, you know, drill wells to see if there's sufficient water capacity. But we can't pinpoint how many
I think
that may take.
And I'm certain there are some wells at that location at this time as well. Yeah, there may be some opportunity to see what's there.
Same with the sewer. The engineers don't do that work. Maybe you have to get someone else to does that work.
Okay. All right, board.
I mean, I would think getting an answer on water should be one of the first things we do. I mean, that.
Water and the sewer too, because even if you have water, I guess you can engineer the sewer, but.
Okay. I think that would be appropriate. I believe this board needs to make an action on that. If that is what the board wishes to do.
Yes,
Or not do.
we'll have a cost proposal probably in the next 2 weeks. The engineers have to reach out to others who be subcontractors to do what we just suggested to the board.
Excuse me, what are we doing?
Looking at increasing the scope to also include water and sewer capacities, to see if there's any availability with that. And also making sure that the study is continuing as well. As currently the discussion, as what staff has instructed us, this board needs to make a decision if there is a motion to continue or to not continue.
We don't necessarily need a motion to continue what we've already voted on. We need a motion
For
to
the-
stop.
Right. At this time, is the study still continuing?
As I said, for the meeting of December 7th, at least my understanding was the board wanted to give more thought to it because of the nature of the cost, you know, $15 million. I've been talking, I'll add this, and speaking to the architect today, they've added another $650,000 to that cost because they didn't look at fire protection for the site, for the scope of what was included in the information from Amherst County.
As I remember that meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know that there's a lot
was my understanding.
I got you.
If you wanted to wait until you had another meeting to speak about all the capital projects that were presented to the board. Because the scope of those were beyond what we call the county's financial capacity, and you wanted to give more thought to that.
Okay. After the study should probably be continued, but, that can always be changed with the consensus of the board.
Well, for me, I didn't leave the December 7th meeting with that understanding because I knew that what was being requested wasn't $51 million.
Right.
That, as Mr. Ryan said earlier, he spoke about the comment, that's not what this project is about. This is not asking the two counties to fund a 50-50 share of a $51 million project.
The report was based on, the report was based on information, a PowerPoint that Amherst County developed, and I'm assuming it was their committee that Nelson County said not provided any information that preliminary feasibility report was based on. It's all based on information from Amherst County.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So I was at a meeting of Amherst and Nelson stakeholders where that kind of a brainstorming session took place of what could happen, what are some ideas on how to provide income to pay for the facility long term. And it was pie in the sky stuff, everything from a motocross biking trail to cabins to a campground for people from lock and overflow. And it was like I said, a think tank of Amherst and Nelson stakeholders that came up with that wish list. But at no time in any of this project, other than in this room or from Nelson's administration, has been indicated that there was an expectation of anybody to spend the money for the infrastructure other than the Amherst Ag Committee. The only thing that Ag Committee is requesting is money to purchase the land and get things going. And that's been reinstated.
One thing we request was that information on how the Chatham facility works on the capital or movement of money out of that. So how that worked and whether they were being successful.
They haven't been very forthcoming with any information, is my understanding. Right. That request has been made.
I mean,
I
would think that would be important information. I will, and I want to support anything that has to do with agriculture in Nelson County. And what we can do to help agriculture is I want to hear about. But for instance, with this money that's going in for this study about the water, what percentage of that study is Nelson County paying for?
It'll be half as long as Amherst County agrees to pay for their share, half the cost.
Why would we, this gives me kind of a bad feeling that we're paying half there when at what point, how much influence will we have in what this facility is about? I mean, I strongly support anything done in Nelson County, but I have questions about something of this massive scale being done somewhere else. That's my feeling.
I kind of resonate that. I mean, I've been on record since this was first proposed. And I raised the issues with the Chatham facility, which is the model that this is kind of based on. And the fact that they have businesses and offices that seem to provide the financial day-to-day to keep that facility rolling. It's clear special events can't quite do that. The Chatham facility is really, although it does hold special events, it has an agricultural business park. And the structure looks like it's very similar to that. For reasons that I've said at the very beginning, I'm not in favor of investing in this project, whether it be exploratory or not. I don't feel it's in the best interest of the county. I'm not in favor of entering any long-term agreement for a facility located in Amherst County that the county has any responsibility for at all. And the fact that there would be a non-administrative body, responsible for its upkeep still, has direct financial ties to our county and investment in it up until that point. It would be a tragedy for this to be a black hole that we would be forced to pour funds in to keep solvent, and at the same time have it distract from the capital improvements that our county needs and wants and desires, and that we're talking about in our capital budgets, including schools. All of these to me are much more important than something that we don't have a level of control over to be able to, invest in the future. Because investments in Nelson County are investments in Nelson County. Investments in Amherst County are investments in Amherst County. And I'm certainly not in favor of that.
Okay. Moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind the board that the setup and the board that would be established, which has not yet been established for that facility, will have equal representation from Amherst and Nelson. That's the intent. Amherst has been adamant that they want full disclosure, they want transparency, they want us to be 50-50 in this project together in order to take advantage of the funding that will be exponentially larger. We have crossing the two lines between Amherst and Nelson and those opportunities. But they make it clear, and we currently have equal representation on the two boards and that committee that's studying this at this point. But everyone's been adamant that the representation on the control of the facility will be equal. And that will be part of the charter that's written for the committee that runs it, that will be part of the deal. That it will be 50-50 control.
And then that was the entire time. Mr. Harvey? Okay, so it would be healthy if we could make sure we're of some consensus. Obviously, I am of the opinion that, the study continues, even though there may be some misunderstandings of what staff may have interpreted our capital improvements meeting. I think it is appropriate to continue the study if adding the scope of water and sewer is a necessary thing. I think we could do an up to dollar number, if that makes sense. If it is up the consensus of the board to not continue, that of course can also happen.
I think if we need to adjust the money, we need to move some other stuff out of the study. Water and sewer should have been one of the first things we did anyway.
Right.
That should have been, why are we worried about cabins or whatever if we have water?
Sure.
So that should have been one of the first things that was looked at, but I certainly think we should continue with what we voted to do, and water and sewer, something that need to be reviewed.
I would certainly be in favor since this property is in Amherst County, pay for that study. I mean, I'm not in favor of our county putting money towards it, but if it's in the best interests of Amherst County, they should, and it's in Amherst County, why in the world are they asking for us to provide money for that study? It's in their county. They're the ones that stand to be the greater beneficiaries. They're the ones who will ultimately, if it's in their county making a larger investment, I think they should stand up and actually do it.
I appreciate your perspective, but the fact is that this is a joint venture between the two counties, and that's how we've been approaching it. And I think starting now with, well, you take care of this and we take care of that, or you take care of all this and we don't take care of anything, is not in the spirit of how we're entering into this. But thank you for your perspective.
Steve, would you move forward with the original instruction of continuing the survey? Or are you going to wait until we make a motion for the scope for water and sewer? Where is staff?
Depending on the posture of the board, we can certainly ask our potential partners to correctly finish the initial study.
Okay.
I mean, which is policies, as I said, maybe I misinterpreted, but it's when the board, met on December 7th, it's pretty clear, at least to me, that you wanted to meet again to discuss all the county's capital projects, including this one, and not make any decisions until you make it. And we have facilitated that meeting, and we followed up as you requested on these additional components of the study.
Okay.
And I would just like to add that, that our information on what we want to move forward on capital improvements in the county is still incomplete. And we haven't seen it. So for us to make a decision on this based on that information, we should get a lot more clearer on what our priorities are for the county. Our county.
Certainly agree with that.
It's going to be, I believe it is going to be important that we have an action so that we can have, staff can have a clear movement, since I did not see a clear sense at this moment. Can we get a motion to either move forward or not?
I've said all along, I don't think we need a motion to move forward. We've already voted on it. But if we're at a stalemate waiting for a motion, I move we instruct staff to continue with the study with the addition of what was discussed for water, sewer, and
Geotech and transportation.
We have a motion. Do we have support? We have a second from Mr. Harvey. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion. If we get a vote from the board, roll call vote, Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
No.
Mr. Carr?
yes.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Okay. Moving forward, thank you. Moving into office spaces. Mr. Carr. Do you want to comment? All right, let's go to the bathroom real quick while the staff is set up. Recess.
Thank you so much.
That's for dinner.